Hello and welcome to Public Conscience, the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. I am Adelbi Obiabumo with Esther Bassi.
Thanks for joining us. Please watch us on our live stream on Facebook at Official PRIMOG if it is convenient for you, and the spelling of PRIMOG is PRIMORG.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society by drawing governments and citizens' attention to corruption reports and issues for prompt democratic actions against them. We also promote integrity by amplifying rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
A couple of weeks ago, we beamed our searchlight on the difficulties survivors of sexual and gender-based violence face in Borno State and their inability to get justice. On today's program, the spotlight is on Kano State, where a Premium Times investigative report is raising alarm over rising trends of rape, obstacle to justice for victims, and the state government's failure to domesticate relevant laws to check the menace.
The report reveals that a lot of young women have been victims of rape in many reported cases in Kano State. Unfortunately, the system is not able to bring culprits to book. Rape remains one of the most common crimes in northern states, particularly in Kano, according to the investigation.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition VAP Act was meant to, among others, ensure due punishments for perpetrators of sexual and gender-based violence, SGBV, and ensure justice for the victims. Regrettably, Kano is about the only Nigerian state yet to domesticate the law.
Today's program will draw the attention of the Kano state government, led by Governor Kabir Yusuf, to the scourge of rape and the need to domesticate the VAP Act urgently. We will be joined by experts who will offer perspectives on how Nigeria can address rising cases of rape and gender-based violence. For you out there, how best can we tackle the rising rape cases in our society? And how can more rape victims get justice? Will more stringent punishments for culprits of sexual and gender-based violence be the way to go?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902-265-6167. That is 0902-265-6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only.
The numbers for call will be given out shortly, but feel free to share your thoughts on 0902-265-6167. That is 0902-265-6167.
If you just joined us, the focus is on the rising cases of rape in Kano State and the challenge of access to justice for victims. The situation is worsened by the inability of Kano State to domesticate the Violence Against Persons Prohibition VAP Act, despite the federal government signing VAP Act into law in 2015.
Joining us in the studio are child and gender rights advocates Lemi Ugwebe. We're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
We also have Dr. Ibadat Ronti Lawal. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
We will also be joined shortly by an investigative journalist, Maria Shuaibu Suleiman, who will join us via the phone. But let me quickly get to Lemi Webe. How would you react to this investigation? You have been in this space for a very long time. But having seen this report again, coming from Kano State, how would you react to it?
Well, let me say clearly that it didn't take me by surprise. We know how bad it really is. In the northwestern region, Kano actually leads for all the wrong reasons when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence. So it's not a surprise, and you'll see that an official even disclosed that they've had 300 cases in recent times pending. It's still, I would say, understated, because for every one case that is reported, tens of cases have gone unreported because of the culture of silence and the fear of stigma.
Okay.
But it's not just Kano, it's pervasive across our nation.
All right, let me hold you on there. But let's quickly get to Maria Shuaibu Suleiman, the investigative journalist. Thank you so much, Maria, for joining us today.
Thank you. I would like to be here with you.
Okay, could you give us an overview of your investigation?
the story actually, it's a little bit start from how I started the journey. I'm very born in James. I'm doing the 15 years of activity. And then residents from the sexual violence of policies that are having us. And then the comment that Kano has the highest number of LGBT people. And that was what actually attracted me and led me to embark on that journey, because I was worried, like, in the whole Nigeria, how come Kano has the highest number of LGBT people? And then I was an advisor to participate in the investigative training organized by International Center for Investigative Organized activity to sector that I submitted my work on. And then that was an opportunity for me, which I subsequently and then I started the work. So during my investigation, I found out that this is considered to happen because there's no the perpetrators are not getting the right punishment. They're not being punished properly, and this is one of the reasons that led them to committing acts with criminal activity. Even though they get caught, sometimes they take them to the police, and then at the end they still come back to the society and still commit the same crime. And so this issue is very prevalent in some states, and it's because a lot of negative impact, negative things on the victim and the society as a whole. So this is in short, like the story is about how the everything a certain justice is managed. The kinds of justice, the one the government is something about it.
Okay, Maria.
The job as casually and the institution is a movie that cannot be discussed here, but they're still working on it. So the child rights act is on the way. But then the job act, which has a lot of issues, the punishment of this affected children. So I think this is one of the issues that we're having here.
Could you, Maria, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Maria? Okay, could you share one of the cases that you investigated? Just give us one. I know there are a lot of them in your report.
Yeah, there are lots of them. It's a this year, we that our father, she's 15 years old.
How old is she?
15 years.
15.
15 years old.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Yes. So, during the investigation, I found out about this particular in one of the communities around, I think, in Nasarawa. So, we have going back again and again, what was that? And then we realized that at the first she didn't tell us that it was her father that did that. It was that she was traumatized and she didn't open up, because this is very something that is shameful and considering the stigmatization that she will face, it's better to keep quiet and not to letting anything to her community. But then somehow we managed to get her people, and she said it happened, and I think in the most of the community, that happened not only once. Like his father, he's abusing her in their own house. Sometimes when she's away. Also, incidents point that somehow gets a teacher, and then she's traumatized, and then she goes
But did she get justice? Maria? Did she get justice at the end of the day?
No, she didn't get any justice. She did not.
Okay, so what is Kano State doing about the rising cases of rape and other forms of sexual, gender-based violence? And did you speak to any authorities as to this regards? The report?
I think I did my investigation. I went to the Commission of Women Affairs and Families to allow me to interview one of our staff, and that Mohammed is the director of statistics and planning in the ministry. And then he said they are aware of this increasing cases of rape.
Okay, so the government are aware?
They haven't domesticated, they are aware about the cases. But they said that they're still going to do, they're still working on how to do that in the Nonsuper Act.
So the government is aware but could not do anything. What of the police? Did you speak with the police?
Yes, I spoke to the police, but the response I got from the police, I was shocked. Because when I spoke to the PPRO of the police station, Abdullahi, he said they are not aware. They are not aware that the safety is on the increase. And I was wondering, like, these cases that they do, people are saying that they are taking this cases. Maybe not to the police headquarters, but at least they're taking it to some of their stations. And he said they're not aware about it. And I asked him, let's say, you guys are aware about it. What are you not doing about it? He said, anytime they brought the case, they need to handle it. And I asked him, to what extent do you handle such cases? He couldn't give me an answer. And the somebody who for more than a month, and then I had to confide in for your interview without giving me the rest of what exactly the police is doing about it.
So the police, according to you, said that they are not aware
of the increasing cases of rape in Kano.
Okay, so what would be your advice to the Kano state government at this point? You know, since you went on the field, you did the investigation, and you're out with the report.
Okay, for me, my own advice to them is to see that they make sure justice is done. And one way to do that is to make sure that the VAP Act is investigated and implemented. Because the problem sometimes is not investigation. It's implementing it and making sure these perpetrators get the punishment they deserve, and making sure that the people get the justice they deserve. So this is some of the issues we are having. Like in states like Jigawa, they have investigated it and they are implementing, and they are trying to see that whatever they do, these people get the justice at the end, at the long run. And that is why the justice is not on the increase compared to Kano State, another state like Plight State.
All right.
I think they should make their career. Let the VAP ask them to the state mentor and make sure the perpetrators get punished as they are supposed to.
Okay, thank you so much, Maria Shuaibu, investigative journalist who joined us via the phone. Thank you for your contribution.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, if you just joined us, we're still in the studio and we have Lemi Ugebe and Dr. Ibadat Ronti-Lawal, who is a recovery coach and a therapeutic counselor. Thank you once again for being here.
Thank you.
Lemi, initially you said that you're not surprised because to you the cases are underreported because according to you we have more rape cases that are not reported. You just heard what she said. According to her, the police said they are not aware of so many of the cases. Meanwhile, from the report, in a particular center, there are 300 cases reported in a month.
Right.
How else would you react to all of this?
It's basically, I think government needs to put its money where its mouth is. There's a lot of rhetoric about we'll wait for 16 days of activism declared by UN. Then you see government come for that 16 days making policy statement. Oh, we will do everything to eliminate it. But where there are perpetrators, even in the few cases that are reported, what steps do government and government agencies take to ensure that even the perpetrator is brought to justice? Now, when a victim or a survivor, as we are wont to call them, when a survivor manages to break the silence and speak out, what is done? Does she get justice? Now, because more often than not, justice is elusive, because most times the police, the community heads, different people will put pressure on her to either drop the matter, or the police that will also help to bungle the matter, in such a way that not only is that survivor re-traumatized by the fact of double jeopardy, I am sexually abused, I report it, the people who should help me get justice also work against me getting justice. What does it do to the society and to other victims? They keep quiet. They say, if this person spoke and could not get justice, why should I even expose myself to the possibility of stigma by speaking? So they keep quiet. So government isn't helping matters. We've seen one case too many of cases that look very straightforward, but at the end of the day, police's deliberate mishandling in some cases, in other cases undue influence from high quarters.
Are you sure it's deliberate from the part of the police?
Yes, there are cases that indicate deliberate mishandling. For instance, where a case is brought to the police, and I use one of the cases I have handled, and a case is brought to the police, and we even give as much information to the police intelligence to say, look, go immediately into the place, swoop and get the CCTV footages, because these people already by their admission say they have 54 CCTV cameras. The police sits down while you are there and calls the other party that are supposed to be the suspects and says, go and get me your footages. Is that not deliberate? Should the police be asking suspect to go and get potential evidence, or the police should be going to retrieve such? And at the end, look, there's one case too many. Do you know that even when we talk about gender desk in the police, in various police stations and all, do you know that I've gone to police stations, different places, and you would see police wanting to even midwife negotiation between victim's family and perpetrator's family. That is on one hand. On the other hand, they bring people who are totally ignorant of even what to do and put them on the desk and say they are gender officers. A policeman at a time, one of the experiences I had was in Lugbe police station, where a policeman was brought in to handle a case of intimate partner violence, where the woman has had to take her kids and run away. Eventually, police arrested her. We're asking her to bring her marriage certificate, because the husband who reported the matter insisted that the marriage certificate must be brought to the station and all. Now, by law, if you marry in the courts, the marriage certificate belongs to the woman, domiciled with her. You cannot, as a husband, force her to part with it. You are meant to buy her ice cream, shawarma, persuade her if you need the marriage certificate. But you know what? Police detained her until she agreed to bring it. And you are talking about a 21st century policing. So there are so many things. There's a woman that her husband was abusing her 4-year-old daughter. At the end of the day, what became of it? That we reported to NAPTIP. In that case, it wasn't NAPTIP's fault. The woman eventually decided not to cooperate, and she's the only eyewitness to that abuse, apart from the fact that we went to the police hospital, where they confirmed penetration of that 4-year-old daughter.
So in some cases now, the family, the police, they try to cover up instead of allowing or getting justice for the survivor of rape case.
Okay, so basically, let's come to Dr. Ronsi. As you've heard, it's not just the fault of the system, in quotes, that some of these survivors don't get justice. So in your opinion, what would be your reaction to the investigation as winning the war against sexual gender-based violence in Nigeria?
On my own observation, and after reading the report, it comes to a point where you realize that there's shift. Everybody trying to shift responsibility and to be accountable. Now the director, is Alhaji Mohammed, he made mention of already dealing with over 300 cases. And like we know already, before a victim can even come out to break their silence, already a lot of cases have been swept under the table. Now the police are now shifting blame or rejecting being accountable to the fact that they are aware. This is the referral center, all right? And now, when the referral center gets cases, they make sure that they report it to the police. So why is the police there in Kano State telling us maybe we are dumb as advocates?
Don't you think it's overwhelming, the number of cases?
No, like you rightly said, we have police that are not well trained, even in gender units. We have police that are well trained, but they will claim that some cases are family issue. You understand? We have cases like, unfortunately, the 17-year-old in the report lost her life. She came out to say what really happened to her. And by the time they take the DNA of the perpetrator and they try to, come out with the result, she was killed. So, what is the encouragement? These people, they are being victimized already in the culture, all in the name of culture,
So you
the
think
norm.
culture is...
Yes, because in our society, we are sensitizing, we are creating awareness that the victims, the survivors, they should speak up. But the culture is there the stigma that when you are being raped or sexually assaulted, you can't get married. There's the stigma that you're already spoiled.
Those are some norms that needs to be changed.
Yes. Those are the encouragement. When we speak these days, we try to tell victims, don't look at what you are going to be facing. Unfortunately, we have limited numbers of NGOs, and we need help in this area.
The support system is just not there.
Exactly. The support system is just not there.
Now look at the case of Saratu. So you look at it, the case she's referring to of the 17-year-old girl, drugged allegedly by an adopted son, a perpetrator in the house, drugged, slept with Awal, the guy. At the end of the day, they say she had to deliver before they do DNA. They were able to do the DNA.
And confirm that.
Okay. They had not even gotten to confirmation when she was killed. Okay. But they've taken the DNA, whatever. All the circumstantial evidence shows prima facie that the person who has motivation or motive for her disappearance and death is this fellow. And you tell me nothing was done. The case is in abeyance. So far. So it tells you that we are really not serious. And so long as there are no people brought to justice, deterrent is not there, we'll continue to have a spike.
Yes.
How come with all the campaigns of advocates? How come with so much that we are doing? How come with even the writings, the speaking, that instead of the figures going down, the figure is spiking?
I wanted to ask you that same question because it looks as if we are concentrating more on the survivors instead of the perpetrators. What are we doing to ensure that we talk to these young boys and in some cases men who perpetrate such acts?
Okay, men are of course the major perpetrators. Right. The male gender are the major perpetrators. Continuing education. But first, one of the biggest signs that will deter anybody at all is not even as much in the preaching. It is the fact that they know that Mr. B did this and was imprisoned. That is what will deter people. Mm-hmm. That's the strongest point government and law enforcement agents will make. But a situation where Mr. B does it and is walking free the next minute and threatening the families of victims, of course people are emboldened to do more.
Right.
So it's a major issue. Of course, NGOs still will continue to speak and talk to what's it called? Talk to. That's why we have an organization like Men Against Rape Foundation, recruiting pools of male champions, picking them from scratch. Like one of the books we just launched, it's focused on empowering, young people and vulnerable people. Now, as you move from secondary school to secondary school, making sure these books are available, you have reading clubs. As they read, because beyond the issues of speaking about cases of rape and all, there are also the issues of gender equality, gender discrimination and all. Right. So as the boys and the girls continue to read this from the poems in this book, they are able to learn and get their consciousness is changed. The boys see certain things that say that speak to them in terms of the boy and the girl are equal. There's nothing to make them feel that the girl is less of a human. Right. As they read, remember, education is the biggest vaccine to fighting this. People who have been socialized in a way that they feel like they are superior, as they consciously read, as they consciously turn reading of poetry into fun, it begins to unlearn, they begin to unlearn the things they've learned. Continuing education is, but government must play its part in ensuring access to justice for survivors and victims and make sure that perpetrators are brought to book. If across the country we begin to have people face maximum punishment for perpetrating such violence, I can assure you that it will be 50% of the job of advocates lessened, because nothing speaks true to it. That NAPTIP brings out the sex offenders register. Several states have, of course, taken up that. As soon as you are convicted, your pictures are everywhere. In the state offenders register, in NAPTIP offenders register, that is a major deterrent. Yeah. But you know what? For every 10 case charged to court, the other case was 3 months in the report by the investigative journalist. 3 months. They even downgraded an issue of rape to what's it called now? To sexual abuse or whatever, and made it a fine of 25,000 or 3 months imprisonment. Right. Where is it done? Even in Kano, there is the Child Rights Act. Yeah. And the Child Rights Act defines that thing that has happened to the child as rape. Even if Kano failed to pass the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, under the Child Rights Act, but what did they do? They ignored the Child Rights Act that they have passed and went and used the penal code as the basis for that, which shows that government itself is hypocritical and not committed. The Kano state government is not committed to addressing this scourge. Otherwise, a child of 9 is abused, you go and use the penal code instead of the Child Rights Act. And again, I'll tell you the drama that is done about the Child Rights Act, even in the north.
Okay, we will get more to that, but we need to open the phone lines. Like you said, government should live up to its responsibilities of protection. Esther.
Please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Primorg. Primorg is spelled Primorg. And remember that we are streaming live on Facebook at Official Primorg.
Remember that this program is interactive. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message to is 0902-265-6167. We want to expand the conversation. How would you react to what has been said, talking about rape and justice for survivors of rape? Do you think we're doing enough to discourage rape offenders? Will more stringent punishment for culprits of sexual and gender-based violence be the way to go? Okay, let's take this call. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Your name and where you're calling us from? Let's hear you in 1 minute. How best can we tackle the rising case of rape as a society?
The problem is not only rape. Our major problem is implementation of law. Look at what is happening with the political arguments like the president, the governor, and the senator. You know, in terms of court cases, you see how the country changed what we are saying them. Electoral offenses or electoral cases has been said in the court that it cannot last more than 56 period of time. But what happened to other cases? I don't know whether you know what I'm saying. our leaders are only concerned with what affects them directly. They don't care that the masses, if you know, most of them try to do is keep on living. So it is the masses that will take it upon themselves, like the barristers and the rest of them, that all the courts you can have time life. If it is 3 months, 4 months, like they did electoral cases, then we will have to learn to go. But the president situation now, we are just making like this, and nothing will happen.
Okay. Like you said, some of our leaders are not interested because it does not affect them. But you never can tell who may be a victim tomorrow. It could be you, it could be me, it could be someone close to you. So we all need to contribute and ensure that we stop this.
All right, so let's come to Lemmy. Great. In your initial submission, you talked about penal code being used instead of the Child Rights Act, and then maybe the VAP if it was domesticated. Yeah. At what point should each of them be used, or should they be used at the discretion of the law or the judge?
If we take the issue of sexual and gender-based violence as a serious issue, a serious public health issue that is capable of producing lots of mentally challenged people across the country, we take it as seriously as that, then you are guided by one thing. What will be the law most applicable to give maximum punishment for an offense?
Right.
For instance, in one of those cases, the case of the 9-year-old who was abused, Child Rights Act would have been the best to give maximum punishment. But again, as I talk about compromise of the system, a system not ready to address the problem, will decide to go to where the offense can be downgraded from rape to sexual assault or sexual abuse, diminishing it and giving option of fine. Why should we give option of fine for violating brutally a 9-year-old child? Why should anybody give anybody soft landing? And look, if you look, this thing is everywhere. But if you look at Kano, you look at Borno, you look at Bauchi, these are serious matters, because when they tell you they have, even for those who in the north have domesticated the Violence Against Persons Act and the Child Rights Act, you'll be shocked that they still make it seem subordinate to the penal code. Remember, in Nigeria, we need to decide who we are. Are we a people? Are we a secular society, or we are a religious society? Are we a people? Are we different people and therefore using different laws? In Nigeria, the penal code is used in the north, the criminal code is used in the south, and Child Rights Act that they are passing in the north says under 18 you are a child. 18 and above, you are no longer a child. But the penal code that they use in the north are subordinate to even our constitution, because we have lawyers who will go and demonstrate over a governor who is needed by EFCC. They say they are advocates for change and whatever. They go demonstrating over everything, but the things that affect society, nobody is coming out to talk about it. A penal code is supposed to be subordinate to the constitution. Child Rights Act that you pass that says once you are under 18 you are a child, they prefer to still go and bring penal code to use instead of the Child Rights Act. And under the penal code, once a child is 14, you can take that child into a sexual relationship in the name of marriage.
Let's quickly get to
Dr. Roti. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things on this table today, but now getting justice, what are those barriers that need to be broken for this justice to actually prevail?
Thank you. Like you rightly said, let us try to put weight on this act, this criminal act.
Weight, what kind of weight?
Weight as in measuring the importance of setting an example, a scapegoat, using one of these perpetrators. Now, the law says life imprisonment. Why are you giving fine? Why the option? if it were the judge's daughter or son that got, raped or sexually assaulted, what would be his reaction? You see? So, in personalizing it, I'm talking to our judges because they are giving the options in pronouncing the judgment at the end of the day. There are clauses to the law because it says life imprisonment or a lesser imprisonment or fine. Then you shouldn't go to the level of giving fine.
Okay.
Why not life imprisonment?
Okay, so life imprisonment is like ultimate deterrent.
Yes, especially in Kano now. Excuse me, sorry, let me add this quick. Especially in Kano now with the situation. This thing is rampant. So the cases that are being held in courts now should be strictly dealt with. So that the people that have believed that they will get away with it, they will know that Nigeria is not a lawless country.
All right. So, what role has the social sector played in confronting sexual gender-based violence, and how can the society help law enforcement officers to, bring this to fore?
Well, we have to talk about again, speaking out. The social sector, as in, we have to create more awareness to make sure that most of the victims, when we talk about the issue of rape or gender-based violence, is not a family affair. So it should not be relegated to the fact that, we have to deal with this. We have a case of a 16-year-old that she got raped, repeatedly by the father. And now when she came out to break her silence at last, what did they say? It's family matter. The police that were called to come and be able to, make an impactful arrest and everything, they are consoling the girl.
Consoling the victim.
The victim.
What kind of consolation would that be? Someone who is traumatized.
To the extent this girl was, by the time my NGO came in to take up the case, she was planning to poison herself, commit suicide. So now we are encouraging, we are coming out, we're speaking about it, we're taking away the shame blaming, we're taking away the victim getting victimized all over again. Because by the time you say, it's family matter, by the time you say, your father or your neighbor, your adopted son, the family adopted son.
Does it mean that the father was not aware of the family name before he committed the act?
He knew. Obviously he knew. Obviously he was in his right senses. Obviously he just took the urge, the animalistic urge in him took over. Now when you see other perpetrators getting scot-free with maybe foul or lesser terms in jail, what are we encouraging as a society?
Okay, thank you for your submission. Let me quickly get to Lemmy. There's a case we are following up with where someone raped a minor, but the police is unable to prosecute the case because the perpetrator is on the run. We know that with the new Police Act 2020, it prohibits the arrest of a person in place of a suspect. That means that the family, initially you could easily arrest the mom, go in there at 4 a.m., arrest mom, dad, and they will produce the suspect. But now they are unable to arrest the person because the boy is on the run. What role can family or community members play who witnessed this act?
Now let's say clearly that if the police is committed to tracking that person, that perpetrator who is on the run, the police will track and get. Mm-hmm. If the victim were a child of a high-profile politician, I can assure you that they would have tracked by now. So it goes to what premium do they place when it's an ordinary, a victim from an ordinary, normal, average Nigerian family. One. Two, families, unfortunately, would almost always want to protect or facilitate escape of their family member. We have the classical case of a late 13-year-old Elizabeth Ochanya Ogbanje, which the police, as far as I'm concerned, also did not show commitment to. The girl was allegedly raped by her aunt's husband and son repeatedly, serially. Now, the boy took off. The cousin who raped her took off. The father was arrested. Till tomorrow, the police never issued a warrant for the boy's arrest, never searched for him. Now, that's just reminiscent of the case you are asking me about. They never took any step. We wrote them repeatedly. We wrote the police, wrote the IG repeatedly, saying that there's information that this guy is within so location and all that. They never took any step.
So how can the law enforcement agencies, how can they be strengthened in all of this?
They have to first be sincere, because it is not the lack of facility to track. What was the response when we called their attention to intelligence of where that fellow may be?
Right.
As I speak, the system enables sexual and gender-based violence to fester. The system, starting, you referred to the judges. It starts from even police investigators.
Right.
Then it goes to Ministry of Justice that gives advice. Who would give the advice on what law they would use to charge the case?
Right.
The Ministry of Justice, the DPP, Director of Public Prosecution. And for whatever reason, they chose to do the Penal Code, not the Child Rights Act.
Do you think they need some sort of engagement with the justice system? They
need exorcism. We need to exorcise them from the demon that allows them compromise. It is not for lack of competence. It is not. Yeah. When a police, the entire Nigerian police tells suspects, go and bring me CCTV footages. Is it because they don't know what they should do? Of course they know what they should do. So it is first of all that as a people, we purge ourselves of the evil of wanting to protect this matter. When we say the politicians, because they do the ones that concern them, do you know the danger in victims, survivors not getting justice? And not being subjected to psychotherapy. As we talk, you say the child comes out and wants to speak against her father. Society and community and family condemn her. Yeah. Where is the safe haven you take the child? You need support. You need support system. Right. The sexual assault referral center that we talk about is in Buhari. What is it treating? It is going to just take your details and all that, and thereafter confirm that yes, this was what happened and no. Section 39 of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act talks about psychotherapy. Victims are left to their own
to heal, and some devices. Of them don't heal. Right.
No, look, even the ones who have daily therapy for the rest of their life will live with the trauma. It is 5 minutes of pleasure for that sick perpetrator, but it is a lifetime of trauma. But you can help them by giving them constant therapy to manage them so that they get to the best possible version of themselves. But it's never easy. But what helps, again, apart from psychotherapy, is a sense of justice. A sense of justice. When you know that you will not get justice, you have spoken, you have exposed yourself. As you are walking, they are saying, look at her, she's the one. Look at her, she's the one. You are re-traumatized over and over again and stigmatized. And men, families will not allow their son or whatever to come and say, I like her enough to want to marry her. They say, what? You cannot. So you just damage the life of that person forever, and government thinks it's a joke. Do you know, when you talk about, in those days, we talk about suicide bombing, you talk about, It used to be far-fetched in a place like Nigeria. But you know what? If we go by the statistics that 3 out of 10 girls and 1 out of 10 boys get sexually abused before their 18th birthday, it means that about 30 million women, females, we have mental health issue. 10 million men, we have mental health issue. So when you see basketballs in the various homes, do you know the history of the abuse and they are now living as abusers?
A long-time effect on those girls and young boys if care is not given to them and if they do not get justice. Before we wrap up, because our time is almost up, your last word, Dr. Ronti.
I quite agree with Lenny here. A lot of the victims, let's say all, at the end of the day, suffer what we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And if care is not taken, it progresses to the extent, I was setting an example of the 16-year-old that was about to take her own life. Now, every day cannot be a good day for a victim after surviving abuse sexually. But when they get, attention of support from the family, professional bodies like psychotherapists and all, they need everyday encouragement to be able to live a normal life. The normal life will not be there again. They will be re-traumatized. There will be triggers. There will be things that will be said in the society. That is why we're advocating for the government to please in most of our hospitals to have sections for counseling where the victims, the survivors, they can be able to go and seek help, either by the family taking them or from the law enforcement agency or even from the referral centers.
All right, thank you so much. A lot still needs to be done, from the family to the community, the police, justice system, and Nigeria as a whole. We need to ensure that rape victims, that is for those or survivors, those who survived, because some die as a result of rape, we need to ensure that they get justice and also the support system that they need to recover. And that's how we're wrapping it up on today's program.
Please visit our news website, primognews.org, that is, primognews.org, for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, www.primog.org, to get all the information about Primog.
And you can watch our videos on Primog TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We sincerely appreciate our guests, child and gender rights advocate Lem Ugebe. Thank you for being here. Dr. Ibadat Ronti Lowell, recovery coach and therapeutic counselor. Thank you for being here also.
Thank you for having me.
Sincere appreciation to Maria Shuaibu Suleiman, the investigative journalist who joined us. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us here again next week for another episode of Public Conscience, and remember to follow us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, @Official Primog. I am Esther Bassi.
Remember that birth registration and certificates are free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also remember that you can give us information or hints about corrupt acts through our phone at 0902-265-6167 or info@primorg.org. I am Adaobi Obiabumo. Please stay safe and thank you for listening.